Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
A high-profile train ride is putting San Diego County's coastal rail problems in the national spotlight tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The U.S. Secretary of Transportation got a first-person look at the erosion along the railroad tracks in the North County. And KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne is live in Solana Beach, where the U.S. Secretary of Transportation arrived just moments ago. Tanya?
Thanks, Maya. That's right. We're live outside of the Solana Beach train station, where U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg is paying San Diego a visit today. He just got off a train ride from Old Town to Solana Beach, where he learned more about the cliff erosion impacting our coastal rail lines. Heavy rain, rising sea levels, and shifts in the ground are all contributing to the erosion of the cliffs under the tracks. It's been an ongoing problem, but it got so bad in San Clemente that train service has been suspended between Oceanside and Irvine. Emergency repair work is underway. It's expected to cost $12 million to stabilize those cliffs and reopen the rail line. That work is estimated to last until the end of the year. Here is what Buttigieg had to say following his train ride.
Well, really what we have to do is make sure that the timetables of government and construction start bending to meet the timetables being set by physics instead of the other way around. And certainly having now had a chance to see for myself just how few feet stand between these rails and the bluffs and the beach, you can see how little room for maneuver, so to speak, there really is.
And you know, Maya, bottom line is that these coastal rail lines need to be relocated, but there's no concrete answers at the moment for this project. And some of the questions looming are where it's going to go, when, and how much the project is going to cost. Live in Solana Beach, Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Tanya, thank you so much for that report. The season of sickness continues tonight across San Diego County, whether it's the flu or the flu-like RSV illness. Children are being impacted and families are waiting several hours in the ER for treatment. KPBS reporter MG Perez has an update on the latest outbreaks.
Medics are on the move at Rady Children's Hospital, and so are the seasonal viruses attacking children. Cases have more than doubled here in the emergency room in the past couple of weeks. Parents have waited up to 6 hours for treatment, holding on tightly to their sick children and the hope that they can be helped. Rachel Henderson and her husband Justin came from Escondido following their pediatrician's orders for their 17-month-old son, Luke.
My son is experiencing an asthma attack and having breathing issues.
Has he had any other symptoms like flu-like or anything like that?
Yeah, cough, runny nose, and then now he has redness in his eye too.
Viruses always take advantage of opportunities.
Dr. Nicholas Holmes has been on the front lines of pediatric care for many years. He's now an administrator at Rady, and he says the perfect storm of a healthcare crisis is happening as COVID continues, leaving children vulnerable after months of wearing masks.
Well, they weren't necessarily exposed to the normal kind of common colds viruses, and so now their immune system may not be as familiar with those types of viruses.
Earlier this month, students at Patrick Henry High School in Del Cerro were hit hard by a respiratory virus outbreak. More than 1,000 of them were absent from school for a couple of days. Things are back to normal today. We know that the outbreak here at Patrick Henry High School happened after homecoming. Many of the students were tested, but not most of them, which means health officials still don't know what they were sick with. 400 cases of the flu-like RSV illness were confirmed here. The rest are suspected cases of the flu and common cold viruses.
If you're sick, stay at home. Hand washing and hand hygiene with hand sanitizer is really important. If you cough or sneeze, you should sneeze or cough into your arm. And certainly wearing a mask can help prevent you from getting sick.
The Henderson family is waiting and hoping for the best.
His health, her health, my health, and then after that, the other kids that he goes to daycare with and stuff like that. Is it going to be something that's going to continue, just revolving door of illness?
That is the question many parents want answered. MG Perez, KPBS News.
And new COVID-19 variants are emerging with so many letters and numbers in their names that they're being called Scrabble variants. Coming up, the potential threat that they pose as we enter the colder months of the year. In San Diego County, the number of people falling into homelessness is outpacing those being rehoused. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayers says it's more evidence of the challenges of homelessness and the cost of living in our region.
In its first brand new monthly report, the Regional Task Force on Homelessness says for every 10 people who find housing, 13 more people become homeless in San Diego County. Mama Heather is one of those people without a permanent home. She formerly lived at Harborside Park in Chula Vista until pushed out, and now lives in a tent downtown.
It's the bills, it's the inflation. It's hard for people to keep up. I've seen many vehicles get caught up. I've seen families get kicked out.
Tamara Kohler is the Chief Executive Officer of the Regional Task Force on Homelessness.
I think what is challenging and shocking is the number of first-time homelessness, which is something that even with all of the investments, we don't in our homeless response system prevent. We're not able to get further upstream.
The analysis found about 15,000 people countywide were experiencing homelessness for the first time, while just under 12,000 people who were homeless found some type of housing in the last year.
But it's also broken out by the number of seniors that are served, our transition age youth, our 18 to 24, our families, and our veterans. And it actually tracks the numbers of those same populations being housed.
The report comes at the same time that the San Diego County Board of Supervisors approved a data program to help prevent homelessness. That also includes an app-based tool that helps county employees connect unsheltered people to services.
There's no real good place for people like me who are senior, disabled, either in a wheelchair or out of a wheelchair, to find an apartment that we have to have for a fixed income basis. Now it's difficult to find that kind of place.
Over the last year, the number of people in San Diego County who received services for homelessness was over 41,000 people, according to the report. That's about 5 times more than the annual one-night count, which was done in February. Jacob Ayers, KPBS News.
San Diego County is putting a plan together for how to spend opioid settlement money when it arrives. Supervisors voted unanimously today to adopt an initial framework, and that will include treatment, housing, and emergency room outreach, among other approaches. The local area saw nearly 1,000 opioid-related deaths last year, much of it fueled by the rise in fentanyl use. A statewide task force is working to protect those seeking and providing abortions. California Attorney General Rob Bonta announced the California Reproductive Rights Task Force today. The San Diego City Attorney and County District Attorney are among 15 legal and law enforcement partners across the state joining the group. They plan to prosecute intimidation and harassment at abortion clinics, enforce consumer protection laws against deceptive or unlawful conduct, and create new laws to keep providers and patients safe, among other goals. It remains to be seen how the reversal of Roe versus Wade and the issue of abortion will motivate voters in November. But one thing for certain is Californians will be asked whether to do more to protect abortion access. Cal Matters' Alexei Koseff gives us a detailed look at Proposition 1.
The landscape of abortion access is rapidly shifting across the United States. Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June, ending a nearly 50-year-old constitutional right to abortion, Republican-led states have rushed to restrict the procedure or ban it altogether. California is moving even further in the opposite direction.
This November, we'll be advancing a constitutional amendment.
Democratic leaders want to make the state a sanctuary for abortion, welcoming patients from across the country who no longer can terminate their pregnancies at home. And now, California voters have a chance to enshrine reproductive rights in the state constitution. Hi, I'm Alexi Koseff, State Capitol reporter for Cal Matters, and this is Proposition 1 in a minute. Abortion access isn't going away in California anytime soon. The procedure has been legal here since 1967. Currently, you can get an abortion for any reason before a fetus is viable at about 24 weeks of pregnancy. California's constitution even includes a right to privacy that state courts have interpreted as protecting abortion. But with the end of Roe, Democratic leaders want greater assurances that abortion access won't be threatened by shifting political tides. They placed a state constitutional amendment before voters declaring that people have a right to choose to have an abortion and a right to choose or refuse contraceptives. Critics say the amendment would not offer any new protections and that it's merely a ploy to turn out liberal voters. But supporters argue an explicit guarantee of reproductive freedom is important in case legal interpretations of California's constitutional right to privacy change. Anti-abortion advocates also say the language is so broad that it would legalize late-term abortions beyond the 24-week point of viability. Proponents deny that. So vote yes if you want California to add a fundamental right to choose an abortion in the state constitution. Vote no if you don't. For more information on this proposition and others, visit calmatters.org.
And for more on the election, you can check out the KPBS Voter Hub, and that is where you will find explainers of the key races and an in-depth ballot guide that is tailored to your district. You can get there by clicking the Voter Hub link you'll find on our homepage. The California Department of Public Health's online page chronicling complaints against nursing homes is often called the agency's transparency website. But KPBS investigative reporter Amita Sharma's review of sexual abuse complaint tallies found inaccuracies and omissions.
On a February evening in 2019, a 48-year-old disabled woman had settled in her room at San Diego's Rio Vista Healthcare Center when a caregiver entered and allegedly raped her. The reported incident is documented by the California Department of Public Health under enforcement actions on its Cal Health Find website. But you have to dig deep to find it. The main complaint page describes the attack as simply substantiated employee-to-resident abuse. That CDPH page, which tallies complaints, is meant to help people find safe nursing homes. But instead, KPBS found mislabeling and errors, especially in sexual abuse complaints. CDPH largely did not respond to multiple questions about how it documents the claims. Lawyer Scott Fikes, who has represented nursing home sexual assault victims, believes the inaccuracies on CDPH's complaint website are deliberate.
I view it as evidence that on an institutional level, the Department of Health is more concerned with obscuring actual information that suggests employees may be engaging in sexual assault than they are in accepting that reality and providing that information to the public.
Fikes points to the Matthew Flukiger case as an example. Flukiger is a former caregiver who was convicted of multiple sex crimes against one woman and pleaded guilty to sexually assaulting two others in East County nursing homes. Yet CDPH's complaint website does not classify any of those attacks as sexual in nature. The website also listed one of the cases as unsubstantiated, even though its own licensing division confirmed the incident, and the page erroneously described Flukiger as a resident. Tony Chicatel with California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform says the mislabeling of the Flukiger case is consistent with what he calls CDPH's hostile indifference toward nursing home sexual abuse. He says the errors are inconsistent with a widely held view that CDPH's complaint website is transparent.
If a jury convicted this person of having done this heinous thing beyond a reasonable doubt, and it's not on the transparency website, or it's very inaccurately portrayed on the transparency website, then I think we need to go back to the drawing board on what transparency means.
The agency's website lacks transparency in other ways. KPBS reviewed sexual abuse complaint lists for all 84 nursing homes in San Diego County on CDPH's website. From 2019 through September 10th, 2022, state regulators substantiated at least 24 sexual abuse cases at 18 local nursing homes. But the watchdog did not cite nursing homes with deficiencies in a majority of those cases. No deficiencies means no details are made public. San Diego patient safety advocate Marian Hollingsworth said the ultimate effect is no accountability.
This sends a message to the facility that no matter what they do, they're going to be just fine. They won't even have to create a care plan to show that this will never happen again.
There's more. CDPH often does not identify on its complaint website whether an accused perpetrator of sexual abuse at nursing homes is an employee or resident. CDPH did respond to this issue in an email saying, quote, "The allegation category does not differentiate between types of alleged abusers, as all cases of abuse are prioritized under the same level of severity." But Chicatel argues the roles of accused abusers matter.
Resident on resident, that's terrible. It should never happen, but it's usually sort of a flash event, a very short-lived incident, whereas staff on resident sexual abuse is usually more sustained.
He says it's also more predatory and damning of a nursing home's quality of care. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
And we have much more nursing home investigations online in our continuing coverage. Tony Chicatel from the California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform details what you should look for when choosing a nursing home. And you can find that on our website, kpbs.org. The CDC reports there's declining interest in COVID boosters, even among older adults who are more likely to be vaccinated. About 93% of people aged 65 and older have completed their initial vaccine series, but only about 72% have kept up to date to getting their first booster, and less than half have gotten their second booster shot. And as for the updated bivalent booster shots, less than 10% of people ages 5 and up have received it. Today, President Biden renewed calls for Americans to get vaccinated.
I'm calling on all Americans. Seems like you're having to make this case again. All Americans to get their shots just as soon as they can. Your old vaccine or your previous COVID infection will not give you maximum protection.
And to show that he really means everyone, President Biden got his updated booster shot today. The push to vaccinate comes as new COVID variants fuel concerns of a winter surge in the U.S. Mandy Gaither has more on what are being called Scrabble variants and whether the updated boosters are expected to protect against them.
In the U.S., the Omicron subvariant BA.5 remains the current cause of most reported cases, but new COVID-19 variants are continuing to spread.
There's all these numbers and letters and all that. Peter Hotez calls them the Scrabble variants because they have these unusual letters now.
Health experts say we can expect a surge with the cooler, drier weather that's to come, but how big of a jump in cases in the U.S. hinges on these new variants, which lumped together accounted for nearly 1 in 3 new COVID-19 infections last week, according to the latest CDC estimates.
So we'll see by mid-November, for example, do they start to take over and become sort of the dominant strain?
Right now, there's a drop in U.S. COVID-19 cases, but
there's always a lull and sort of a downturn before you see some of these significant surges.
The new variants are offshoots of Omicron, so health experts say the updated booster will provide enough protection against them.
While they are different, they're not different enough to say, hey, look, they're just going to evade immunity.
However, many antibody treatments are based on some of the original strains of the coronavirus.
So if you're someone who counts on getting an antibody treatment, that's probably not going to be as effective against these new strains for that reason.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
While the new variants are slightly different, these new Omicron offshoots have evolved to share many of the same mutations. Some experts believe that means that we've entered a new phase that will see circulation of several variants at the same time.
As we talk about an onshore flow, coastal low clouds and fog will continue the next several mornings. Also looking at some of that low cloudiness, even making its way into some of the interior western valleys. But dry. Yeah, we're going to be talking about more dry conditions after a dry month. You have to go all the way back to, September 9th. That was the last time we saw over a ½ inch of precipitation for the day. And temperature-wise, near normal. In some cases, we'll be talking about temperatures a little bit below normal. For tonight, we'll be falling back down to 60 in San Diego, a little cooler in Oceanside, Chula Vista at 57, and Mount Laguna down into the mid-40s. Here's a look at Futurecast, and we'll start to notice, again, some of those low clouds returning. There you start to see that sliver of low cloudiness here throughout the morning time frame. As we work our way into the afternoon, though, we'll start to see some nice conditions returning back over the interior, especially toward the mountains and into some of the deserts. Again, those temperatures running a little bit below normal. You see the dip in the jet stream. High temperature wise, we'll be climbing up to 60 in Mount Laguna, 70 in San Diego, normal right around 73. So we're pretty close to that mark. Oceanside climbing up to 70 degrees. And a similar situation on Tuesday, dip in the jet stream out east. We'll see storminess heading out toward the Four Corners along with wind, chill. There'll also be some rain, but we're going to stay on the dry side. And temperature-wise, we'll start to notice some of those numbers climbing just a bit here toward the coast as we go into Saturday. Again, looking at morning low clouds and fog over some of the inland locations, some of the valleys. Again, a little cool here on Wednesday. Otherwise, temperatures can start to slowly climb their way up as we head in toward the weekend into the upper 70s. Mountainous locations turning cooler here Thursday and Friday. You saw that dip in the jet stream a little bit away from the coast. And then we'll start to see those temperatures turning around by the weekend and heading into the desert. Same situation here. Subtle cooling Thursday and Friday. A little bit warmer by the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Povick.
There was no damage, but a significant quake was felt by millions of people today in the Bay Area. The U.S. Geological Survey measures it as a magnitude 5.1. Shaking was felt just after 11:40 this morning with an epicenter just east of San Jose. And this quake comes just a few days after the Great California Shakeout earthquake drill in which millions prepared for the real thing. NASA is out with new satellite images that can show what parts of Earth are releasing methane into the atmosphere. Methane is an odorless gas linked to climate change. The satellite has identified more than 50 places around the globe that emit huge amounts of methane. NASA says pinpointing these emissions could help countries identify the problem so that they can make changes to help the environment. The Escondido Union School District received an unprecedented donation today. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado says it's only the second school district to receive a multi-million-dollar donation from philanthropist Mackenzie Scott.
It was a big day for Escondido Union School District.
I'm proud to announce that the Mackenzie Scott Foundation has donated $16 million towards supporting our work with our students. We are humbled by this recognition and the trust it places on us with this extraordinary gift, which was very much unexpected.
Superintendent Luis Rankin-Zabarra says the largest donation in the history of their district came after they were contacted last month by a representative of philanthropist Mackenzie Scott, who was impressed by the district's work.
About a week later, I was contacted again, said we want to have another meeting, and this time they let us know that we were going to be gifted $16 million. And I had to pause, and they said, what? $16 million? They said yes, and that was the highlight of the entire year for me.
Rankin-Zabarra said the donation came at the perfect time because after the pandemic, he assembled a team to put a strategic plan in place that created a vision for learning.
And now we have a donor who believes in our work, and now we have a funding source to reimagine what school could be like for our kids.
He says they have been conducting focus groups to find out what students want to learn.
They've told us that they want simple things, like how to balance a checkbook, how to apply for a mortgage, And what is a mortgage?
He says the district was among the first to open, knowing that many students relied on their schools for a lot more than an education. Just under 80% of the students qualify for free and reduced lunch, and many are food insecure.
We had meals set up for all of our families. Because we understood the importance of school and how some students depend on that for meals.
He said that's not the only challenge. 60% are English learners, but he says that statistics do not dictate how big these children dream, nor what they can achieve. And he knows something about that.
I see myself in these kids. I also grew up in a home very similar to these students. The kids need to see that this is possible.
So this isn't money. This represents
dreams and hopes. Dreams and hopes.
All the schools having a chance to have more than they usually would, with the donation, being able to pay for projects and different experiences for the kids to learn far beyond what they ever thought.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Pennsylvanians explain what is motivating their vote in one of the nation's most closely watched Senate races. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. New calls for resignations in LA. NPR's Morning Edition looks into the 2 city council members who refused to step down after being caught in a racist conversation. And KPBS Midday Edition will have an update on the local COVID-19 situation as the flu and other illnesses become more of a concern in our area. And you can find tonight's stories right there on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.